Water is life. Where there is water, there is life.
The river is our source of water. So we not only depend on it daily, we're historically tied to the river. It's why we're here.
You know, we are a river city.
So as a river city, I think this project is just a natural connection.
If I could use one word to sum up this project or the suite of projects that is the effluent pump station, I would say opportunity.
It is really creating an additional sense of energy in a part of our downtown that did not exist before. We'll be returning treated water back into the Ohio River cleaner than how we took it in. And that benefits everyone. Certainly it benefits our region and it benefits the environment. This is not just a utility setting. This is actually, we think, a destination. Come to the Riverfront. Come to the Sunrise Pump Station.
The planning around the pump station first began with the development of the consent decree solution as a whole. You know, the consent decree laid out things that we have to do. We have to improve the water quality. We have to reduce the amount of untreated combination sewer overflow that we release to Pigeon Creek in the Ohio River. Our effluent would dump into Bee Slough, and then it would either drain out by gravity to the Ohio or be pumped into the Ohio by the Levee Authority. And just over time, us adding up to 26 million gallons a day into Bee Slough just created a septic and a stagnant condition, a health issue with Bee Slough itself, because in addition to our effluent, there was also combination sewer overflow.
One of the things that we have to fight, being a river city and being right here close to the river, and the Bee Slough issue is when the river is high, we have to close the gates for a flood purpose. So the levee and what was built to protect us from the river flooding also is an impediment to us getting that used water, once it's cleaned, back into the river.
The effluent pump station, the intent of that is to move that 40 million gallons of treated effluent from the East Wastewater Treatment Plant to the river.
When we began talks with the US EPA several years ago now about what our consent decree would look like, we didn't know what all the components were going to be that would be included in that plan. I think what makes me most excited about the new Sunrise Pump Station is the fact it takes the Evansville water and sewer utility to a whole new level.
The idea to have an effluent pump station was put into the project set back in 2011. The project as we see it today, though, really started taking shape in the 2016-2017 timeframe. When we started envisioning what the effluent pump station should be, we had outreach to several different agencies. Through Leadership Evansville, we had a neighborhood meeting at the park to seek input from folks that were actually using the park. Site selection for the pump station was pretty straightforward. We knew we had to take the water from the East Wastewater Treatment Plant from a spot and pump it over the levee out into the river. And the old Kids Kingdom playground was really that space. So we really wanted to honor the history of the space that we were going to occupy. The effluent pump station, when it was site located in Sunrise Park, it just felt appropriate to name that pump station Sunrise Pump Station. You know, there used to be a difference between Sunrise and Sunset Park, and that demarcation, I think, was the Waterworks Road. So part of this project also relocated Waterworks Road. There really was no demarcation anymore between the two parks. I think the majority of Sunset Park still exists, so Sunrise Pump Station seemed appropriate. It became very apparent that we needed to replace that park that was liked so much by so many before we even decided to start construction of the pump station. So Kids Kingdom, I think at the time, was the #2 park most visited by folks in Evansville. So it was very sensitive to those who built it, the volunteers, as well as those who used it. That was really kind of the birth of Mickey's Kingdom. So I often refer to Mickey's Kingdom as my favorite sewer project because it did start as a result of a sewer project. The folks who were instrumental in organizing the original build of Kids Kingdom were also leaders and organizers and instrumental towards the building of Mickey's Kingdom. It was just fabulous. So it was a wonderful build. You know, at the time it became a community effort that I think topped out at $1.8 million of donation. This enormous, 10-day playground build with over 3,000 people taking part in constructing Mickey's Kingdom. At the time of its opening, it's my understanding the Mickey's Kingdom was the largest all abilities playground in the Midwest. Up to 40 million gallons per day as a rate, that's a lot of water. So we had to make sure we knew how the water was going to behave coming into the pump station, and equally as important, how it was going to behave when it was pumped out into the Cascade and allowed to free fall down a stair-like contraption to get to the Ohio River. So we chose to have our design engineer engage some real modeling out of Clemson Hydraulics down in South Carolina.
When you're into large pump stations like this, we strongly recommend always going to modeling for the simple reason is it lets you see how the model is actually going to let you see how the plant's going to work when it's completed. We actually made several changes as a result of that modeling to help improve how the plant would operate once it was completed.
We had various stakeholder engagement meetings to get the public's input to hopefully provide a project that will be a legacy for the city.
The utility chose the Donahue and Associates team to do the design of the effluent pump station and all the surrounding amenities. And it was with that selection that really the project really started to take shape. So they took the preliminary design concepts and they built models so that we could better understand how the water would react. They put dye in the water so they could watch the movement. They could trace the water and how it flowed into the wet wells and through the pumps themselves. They were looking for something called vortexes. They were looking for places where the pumps might have been cavitating. When air gets trapped in a pump, it should be water. So when air gets trapped in there, that's really kind of what causes damage to a pump long term. So we were looking for ways to eliminate the cavitation. We added some vanes that helped concentrate water as it came into the suction part of the pump as it's pulling water out. And the addition of those vanes, by tracing the dyes in the water, was a way that we were able to add those and lengthen the life of our assets, lengthen the life of the pumps. The Army Corps of Engineers is a very important agency to coordinate with, especially when you're working down and around the levees. Their prime charge in Evansville is to protect Evansville from the Ohio River during times of flood. Coordinating with them on how we were going to get around or through or under the levee, we knew going into it was going to be a very important component of this project. When the Donahue team proposed going up and over the levee, we were very excited about that.
You've got this clean water and we're pumping it up and over into the river, and we're actually improving the water quality of it as it's going into the river too, because it's actually using Cascade and it's adding oxygen to it. When we approached the project, we tried to look at something to differentiate us from what everybody else was proposing. We came up with a concept, and it was a team concept. Instead of trying to go through the levee or underneath the levee, let's pump up and over and make it something that's beneficial also. They can actually aerate the water, created the water attraction along the walkway there on top of the levee, and they add something more to Evansville rather than just another industrial municipal public structure. It's actually something that benefits the public.
It did help in facilitating a solution that the Corps was more comfortable with. So we still had permitting that was required to construct the Cascade on the river side of the levee. There was still permitting that was required to build the overlook that sits on top of the levee, as well as the installation of additional fill-in material that's on the city side of the levee. So they reviewed and evaluated those proposals very closely, just to protect their core mission and protect the city of Evansville.
The Army Corps of Engineers delivers vital public and military engineering services in both peacetime and wartime to strengthen our national security, energize our economy, and reduce disaster risks. In this project, the Corps of Engineers wants to ensure that this construction project does not in any way damage or imperil the integrity of the levee. And so our goal is to ensure that the levee is maintained to the highest standards. The reason we do that is because the Evansville levee is in a program that will essentially rebuild or reconstruct the levee if it's ever damaged by a flood. Like most levee embankments, in this particular project, we're looking for anything that would potentially cause a seepage issue. In other words, where floodwater may be allowed to seep through the levee, We're looking for stability issues. I'm standing on top of a Cascade structure, a large concrete structure placed on top of the levee, and that's not too typical for us. So the issue here is that we maintain stability in the embankment. And then finally, erosion. We want to ensure that any construction here won't cause erosion to the levee. The most challenging aspect was to figure out how to anchor the Cascade so that it doesn't slide down the slope into the river, and at the same time it doesn't compress the levee embankment. We typically would pump effluent through a levee and not up and over, although up and over is certainly acceptable. That's a lot of weight to put on a levee embankment. In part to offset that weight, we have used what we call a geofoam, offering strength but relatively little weight compared to soil.
As we were building the pipes up and over the levee, the Army Corps of Engineers, headquartered out of Louisville, was concerned that all the extra weight of the piping and then the soil that'd be required to cover up the piping would just add overburden to the levee, and we certainly didn't want to risk the integrity of the levee, so we installed geofoam, which is a lightweight material that took the place of the soil. That was new, to this project and unique. We also, as we drained the Cascade into the river, we used some new products, for erosion protection to make sure the Cascade is good for generations to come. Our regulatory division became involved in the project. Its mission is to protect the waterways of the U.S., and so anything constructed near a river is something they're concerned about.
The Indiana Department of Natural Resources also goes hand in hand with that. They wanted to assure that by building our Cascade outfall down the levee that we weren't causing any issues with the wildlife walking on the levee. We dealt with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. So it was ongoing. It took quite a bit of coordination. We wanted to make sure we were providing good value to the citizens of Evansville.
There were 4 major construction packages that we put out for bid that made up the pump station project. Of those 4 projects, you had a general contractor and they had multiple subcontractors. All in all, there was 50 contractors involved in the project and over 875 tradespeople worked on this Sunrise Station project.
Construction here started in the early part of 2019, and it started with Contract A and Contract C. Contract A was the building itself and some of the site work. Contract C was all the underground work. There was a bunch of water mains, storm sewers, and some sanitary sewers that got installed. Then early 2020 is when Contract B started. It was the Cascade and Overlook, building that on the riverside of the Ohio River levee. Following in the summer of 21, Contract D came out, and it's all the site finishes and the landscaping package. There's greenway trails, sidewalks, and that sort of thing.
The project was split into phases just because of the sheer cost of it. We were hoping to break off some smaller portions to give either local or some smaller contractors a chance. We tried to group like-minded work together with the different contracts.
The pump station you see behind me, plus the Cascade, the Overlook, the parking lot, the entire property consists of 10.91 acres. The pump station itself is approximately 45,000 square feet, which has our sewer laboratory inside it, which takes up approximately 8,000 square feet. We have approximately 14,000 square feet of public space.
The pump station goes about 40 feet into the ground below what you see on the surface today.
I think one of the most unique things about the pump station, to me personally, is how deep it goes. It goes more than 40 feet underground. It basically gets to the bed level of the river. So imagine in your mind's eye how deep the Ohio River is and where that bed is. That's how deep this pump station is, and that's where those pumps are.
We needed to go pretty deep to the ground. So this pump station had to go to where the basement floor is basically at the level of the riverbed.
2 of the challenges the contractor ran into when digging the pump station was we encountered unsuitable soils. Back in the late 1800s, before we had a levee system, the river was much wider and people would drive over to the edge of the embankment and dump their burn barrel trash. They didn't have a specific landfill to take to. So we dug into that layer of landfill material here and we had to haul it away. The other challenge was just fighting the groundwater. With the rise and fall of the Ohio River, the area would get saturated, and they had several dewatering pumps here pumping water at a tremendous rate early on in the project.
When the river comes up, the groundwater comes up, we had to make sure that we had an extensive dewatering planned to get all that groundwater out of there to build a stable foundation for the station.
My role as construction manager is to enforce the contract with the contractors, and one of the things I'm most proud of is the quality that went into the job by all the trades workers.
As far as construction, there's so many neat things about this project. It's really one of the utility's first mixes of public and utility space. So we certainly wanted to fit in, and we wanted to add to the excitement of the downtown. So, we added the lobby space. We're hoping that in the future we can partner with someone who can manage that space as an educational component to promote science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. There'll be windows into the workspace of the utility. That will be the new location of our wastewater testing laboratory. So all the water quality testing we do to ensure that we're delivering safe water back out to the river will all be done there. That's part of the consent decree and part of our daily permitting with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. We've been able to add space in the building itself for a police substation so that police can make more of a community presence there on the Greenway. We added parking. We will have added 167 parking spaces, for example, so people can come and enjoy the downtown, and it could all really start at Sunrise Pump Station.
Part of this process was not only parking for our staff, but to create some public parking so people had a way to come down and access the riverfront.
We're creating a new trailhead with just the parking lots that are required. We're bringing the Greenway down off the levee and around the building so that our parking lot can serve as a safe trailhead to get up on the Greenway. So we have seasonal bathrooms at Mickey's Kingdom. We also are going to have year-round bathrooms at the effluent pump station, all that will be accessible to the public.
We've also added just some benches. There's swings up on top that you'll be able to sit on the river and look out and see. So we wanted to make sure we incorporated the river and provide a place for people to enjoy the scenery.
The rooftop of the effluent pump station building is probably the best view of the whole project. You can see the whole river bend from the rooftop. It's pretty amazing to look to your left and then you'll see past the water filter plant, which is beautiful in and of itself. Architecture from the early 1900s. And then pan to the right and you see the Cascade, then you see Mickey's Kingdom, you see downtown Evansville. It really is just a beautiful landscape that you can see from up there. There'll be educational rain gardens so we can kind of tell the story of green infrastructure, not only here, but 1.5 to 2 dozen applications of green infrastructure that we've partnered with different agencies over the past couple years, all in an effort to reduce combination sewer overflow. Part of the Cass Adams project, which also included the construction of the retaining wall on the other side of the Veterans Memorial Parkway, we added inlets during that project into Beast Slough itself. So not only can we pump our effluent into the Ohio, we can also open inlets when we have capacity on Beast Slough itself. In addition, we can drain that sewage, that overflow, back through the treatment plant, treat it, then move it through our own effluent pump station, and then also out in the Ohio River. With these two projects, we're able to stop adding to the volume of Beast Slough and clean it up faster and quicker than it's ever been cleaned up before.
This is an opportunity for Evansville to take a structure that has a purpose and it's solving a problem, but to do it in a way that's unique and do it in a way that invites others in. Do it in a way that brings beauty with functionality. We have a great resource, a great asset in the Ohio River. And we look at this project as one that will help people see the beauty of the river.
We are a river city, so there's so many ways we can educate future technical kind of folks that are growing up in Evansville right now, all things water. The educational opportunities here for science and technology, engineering, math, teaching tools or education about how this place was built, why it works, how we protect ourselves from not only the Ohio River as a neighbor, but also from our water, our combination sewer overflows that come from our community out into the Ohio.
We want to give young people a chance to see, hey, this is a profession, a career around the world. Water is arguably the most important resource for all communities.
Think about STEM classes. Think about grade school, middle school, high school, collegiate classes coming on this site. The possibilities are really endless.
There were so many different types of careers and trades and crafts that went into building this project. I think moving forward, certainly there is going to be opportunity. Part of this includes moving the wastewater laboratories from their current location at Allen's Lane down to this building.
So we're putting our lab staff in this brand new laboratory. People will be able to see kind of what goes into treating water.
Part of our requirements is the consent decree is an extensive amount of water quality sampling. The amount of samples that we take now compared to the amount that we'll take once we've implemented all of these things of the consent decree are going to be multiplied several times over. So I'm certain that'll add to needs for the utility, more staff and manpower to test those samples, make sure we're putting into the Ohio River what we promised to put in by reducing the pollutant load on the Ohio River. The overall concept here really is kind of a generational decision. It's an opportunity for the utility to kind of show what it's doing to comply with the consent decree. It's an opportunity to put on display the talents and the skills of the water and sewer utility employees. It's an opportunity to promote the types of careers and trades and workforce that's required to keep the utility going. And it's an opportunity across a whole spectrum of education for the youth of Evansville and their future.
Sunrise Pump Station is part of an overall destination. With the opening of Mickey's Kingdom just a few hundred feet away to this is all connected green space.
It's going to be tied to the greenway. So this long trail that people can get on and walk and ride bikes will all be a part of this location.
It's a place where we've incorporated a whole spectrum of ideas on ways that people can enjoy water.
Arguably, water is the most important resource we have besides air.
Water is life. Where there is water, there is life.
We hope that we'll be able to help our citizens understand the importance of water and how we need to be good stewards of water.
While we can come up here and stand by the second largest river on the entire continent in the Ohio River, where more than 1 billion gallons in a minute pass by regularly, we don't hear any water as it's going by at such a high rate. So the Cascade will provide the sound of rushing water, and you'll be able to go out to the overlook and hear it and see it and enjoy it. So that's definitely a great feature of this project.
And I sense the community will be exceptionally proud of this. One, because it represents a commitment to the US EPA and to IDEM, all of our partner agencies, that we're committed to improving our underground infrastructure. So it's a commitment to that, but it's also a commitment to the community that we can do more, that it can be recreational, it can be educational, and of course, utilitarian for our city. Come to the Riverfront. Come to the Sunrise Pump Station. The city and the utility had a vision to really make this a destination. We encourage you to come out and enjoy all that we've done to invest in our city. And also as an investment into quality of life, this is a great destination for families and for people who just want to enjoy the great outdoors.
To enjoy some time down the riverfront, a place where you can come and park safely, get out with your kids, a walk on the greenway, a good place to enjoy friends and fun and with family. Evansville was founded because it's on the river. With the construction of the levee in '37, we kind of dislocated ourselves from the river. To protect ourselves, we removed ourselves. That connectivity is important to continue on. So one of the things the effluent pump station does, and all the amenities that come with it, is it kind of reconnects. It helps to connect and revitalize the downtown recreational area and helps to reconnect folks with the river.
People come down here just to sit and watch that sunset. There's something calming as you see the sun go down and you see it over the river and you see how the light will hit different ways. And there's this reality that while we live in a local place, we are tied to a much bigger reality that is Earth. And we get to see this thing that happens every day. The sun rises and it sets, water flows by every day, and you get this reality. You're part of something bigger, and really recognize what an asset the Ohio River is to our community.